President Trump and the First Lady hosted a trick-or-treat event at what's left of the White House. And this is one of my favorite things that the president does because it's so clear he never trick-or-treated once in his life. Like, in his first term, here's how he gave candy to a kid dressed as a minion.
Well, there's the President of the United States that has it out for me and has for 20 years when I told the truth about him on a program called The View, where it was my job to talk about pop culture, politics, and I mentioned his bankruptcies and I mentioned all of the sexual assault charges.
Let me save you from 3 hours of regret, because you're about to see the kind of Trump roasting chaos that turns simple laughter into a full-contact sport. Colin Jost launches jokes so sharp they practically require safety gear, and Rosie O'Donnell unleashes truth bombs powerful enough to shake the walls of Mar-a-Lago. By the time this moment wraps up, you won't know whether to gasp, cheer, or demand an encore. Buckle up, curiosity always wins. Stay tuned for the chaos to unfold today.
Melania's just like, I guess that is how it's done. And then again this year, he did it to a kid dressed as DJ Marshmallow.
He was not, in fact, the businessman that everyone thinks he is because of the show The Apprentice, where they sold a bunch of lies to America for over 10 years, and half of America believed it. And so he was very angry, to say the least.
Yes.
And
Colin Jost wore that familiar look, the one he gets whenever Trump does something so baffling even satire gives up and leaves the room. It's the expression of a man who has stared into the sun only to realize the sun is somehow tweeting back at him, right in there.
President Trump finally released what everyone has been asking him to release.
Nice.
George Santos, the former Republican congressman who had pled guilty to fraud and something called aggravated identity theft, which I think is when you push someone into a closet and switch clothes with them, is now free and will face zero consequences. But Santos says that he's a changed man, and he even released a photo of his new prison body.
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell icon. He explained it perfectly. Whenever Trump makes a choice, the universe gently warns, this might be a bad idea. But Trump reacts by cranking the volume, doubling down, and installing a gold-plated elevator that descends straight into the basement of spectacularly bad ideas that absolutely no one asked for or expected.
wife, Marla Maples, was on Broadway with the man who ended up being my leading man in Grease, Jason Opsahl. So he was invited to the wedding because of Marla, and he took me as his plus one. And I thought it was a kick. You know, I thought, oh, I'm going to go get an expensive outfit, which I didn't have any. And I went to the wedding, and we didn't stay very long. It was odd because he had stood her up a few times already. So friends and family weren't thinking he was going to do it this time. But he walked down the aisle in Trump Tower or wherever it was a Trump building, and he shook hands with all the celebrities who were there.
Josh didn't need loud gestures. His humor came from that calm, precise style. He cuts through chaos like a politely disappointed surgeon, explaining that the patient swallowed a traffic cone and insists it was somehow part of a perfectly reasonable strategic plan today.
Put it in the bag. Why is he so weird? Even the kid is like, this is not... It's kind of an embodiment of his entire presidency because it's just a violation of norms that no other president or person has ever conceived of. Like, who's ever thought, I should put the candy on the kid's head? My favorite part, though, was when Trump and Melania made a grand entrance to this song.
He described Trump's public moments with the same tone you used to warn a cat not to eat plastic, calm, patient, and already aware the cat will stare back and chew even faster. To him, the entire political spectacle resembled a never-ending group project where one kid refuses to help but still demands his name on the cover in giant glitter letters. Except glitter washes off. Those decisions don't. He walked through Trump's week like a man flipping through chaotic TV channels, each one showing a new disaster. The contradictions weren't subtle, they were visible from the International Space Station, yet Jost delivered everything with that trademark slow-burn smirk. The smirk of someone who now accepts that documenting one man's ongoing audition for most dramatic human alive is officially his career. It was also the smirk of a person who knows that every time Trump says something outrageous, a comedy writer somewhere sighs, stretches, and prepares for another marathon session. When he shifted to Trump's press events, He painted them like family gatherings where no one knows what's going on, but everyone pretends nothing is wrong. He noted that Trump often responds to questions as if he's speedrunning a riddle he only heard halfway, filling in the missing parts on the fly. And somehow in his mind, that improvised explanation instantly becomes the final, authoritative version.
Definitive one.
Trump.
Ivey Zamir. Here we go. Ask away.
Does any of it stick? I mean, he's called you a threat to humanity.
When you hear it, but then again, you have to look at the person who's saying it and what he said about other people, beloved people, like who? Like Taylor Swift, like Bruce Springsteen, like Meryl Streep, not a good actress, no talent actress. The most awarded, Tom Hanks, the most awarded actors and artists that we have in our time.
Whenever Trump tries to shift blame, Jost compares it to a weather report, not a normal one, but the kind where the meteorologist blames the rain on the neighbor's dog or insists the clouds were incorrectly scheduled. The map behind him might as well be a giant shrug emoji. It's logic that abandons logic, and Jost embraces the contradiction like a rogue science experiment. Then he highlights Trump's spontaneous public statements, those moments when Trump appears with the excitement of someone who believes he just invented water, only to announce something wildly unhelpful. Jost navigates Trump's interviews with the calm of a wildlife narrator. A gazelle sprints, a lion stalks, and Trump somehow claims he can negotiate with both and may launch a consulting service. Every answer he gives feels like it's been translated through several languages and a very committed blender. The result is a spectacle that leaves audiences bewildered, amused, and wondering how the conversation even happened.
While traveling on Air Force One to the Middle East to celebrate the ceasefire, President Trump told reporters, "I don't think there's anything that's going to get me into heaven." Then he paused for 10 full minutes, waiting for someone to say, "That's not true." Because Trump can't go to heaven. He's far too busy down here, running hell. John Bolton, who wants people to stop coming up to him to order chicken, has become the third person on President Trump's enemies list to be indicted.
Jost wrapped up his section with a flourish of casual disbelief, the kind that silently says, "I couldn't invent this, but reality somehow did." His tone stayed dry, gentle, yet razor-sharp, as if he were calmly discussing weather patterns while discreetly pointing out that the roof is definitely on fire. That was the brilliance of it. Nothing forced, nothing loud, just clean, precise comedy dissecting a man who communicates in permanent all caps. Then the energy shifted, because Rosie O'Donnell doesn't enter a topic. She charges into it with the force of someone fueled by 3 cups of coffee and a newfound passion for telling the truth at full volume. Her commentary carried that unmistakable Rosie velocity. Part frustration, part realism, and part comedic exhaustion from having absolutely had enough. She compared Trump's latest meltdown to someone trying to return a half-eaten meal, while insisting it wasn't cooked with enough respect. She didn't need to exaggerate, the behavior supplied the chaos, and she simply filled in the edges with brightly colored mayhem.
I have to tell you, he's been doing it for 2 decades, and I'm still not used to it every time he does. But, I felt very troubled that they put the Taoiseach in that position and didn't treat him with the respect that a leader of that kind deserves when they're visiting the White House. And I wrote the Taoiseach with a little note, apology to his email, and got a note back that they had received it and thanked me. But I just wanted him to know the history and what happened and why he seems to be out to get me in ways that are startling to most.
Her description of Trump's
policy talk sounded like a review of a wildly confusing reality show, one with no plot, no budget, no cast, yet somehow renewed every season because the producers secretly enjoy chaos. She laughed through the contradictions, noting that Trump switches explanations faster than a champion of remote control roulette. Rosie treated Trump's public appearances like performances from a hyperactive game show contestant playing a game where the rules change every 5 minutes. She said Trump responds to criticism the way someone reacts when their last chicken nugget is stolen, loud, offended, and absolutely certain justice must be delivered on the spot. When she moved on to Trump's press moments, Rosie didn't hold back. Her comparisons grew almost cinematic. She joked that his answers often sound like monologues from a character who wandered in from the wrong movie entirely. She pointed out the suits that fit like they're in an ongoing argument with themselves, the ties so long they could measure the height of a medium-sized tree, and the spray tan that seems to break basic rules of geometry. To her, it looked like a bold color choice made by someone who puts a little too much faith in the mirror every morning.
President Trump met with Chinese President Xi Jinping. When asked how the meeting went, Trump said this.
But overall, I guess on the scale from 0 to 10, with 10 being the best, I would say the meeting was a 12.
I guess Trump just wanted to show China we're still way worse at math. Trump also visited South Korea and was given a gold crown and served beef patties with ketchup for dinner. So they basically got the President of the United States a Happy Meal with a toy.
Her commentary rolled smoothly into Trump's rallies, which she described as theatrical productions created by someone who skimmed one page of the script and declared, "I've got this." She noted the wild mid-speech transitions, where Trump jumps from policy to personal grievances to reviewing his own achievements, as if he's trying to persuade himself. Rosie captured it with the energy of someone grading a presentation that began confidently and ended with unnecessary flaming hammer juggling. By the end of the week, he's scolding everyone for misunderstanding something he also insists he never said. Rosie compared it to a loop, a circular roller coaster where every exit leads straight back to the entrance. Then she shifted to Trump's interviews, treating them like attempts by a man trying to win an improv competition without actually knowing what improv is.
Never met him, but I was watching a man on his wedding marching to his wife, stopping to shake hands like he was a car salesman. You know, he has been a mystery to me from the moment I was conscious of him as a young child, when all his planes were getting repossessed off the runways at LaGuardia, when he was trying to sell steaks and cologne. And, you know, because, you know, Warren Buffett always does that, right? All the billionaires do that. No, he's the only one because he's a con man.
She described moments where Trump confidently delivers answers unrelated to the actual question, as if he's playing an entirely different game. Her energy spiked as she explained that Trump responds the same way people do in job interviews when they don't even know what the company does: loud confidence, low accuracy, and sky-high ambition. Rosie then tackled the social media chaos, comparing it to giving a tornado a megaphone. No matter how often he tries to rewrite events, the universe politely reminds him that's not what happened. She wrapped her segment with a flourish only she can deliver, a mix of disbelief, humor, critique, and exhausted amusement. Rosie summed up Trump's recent behavior as an unpredictable soap opera overflowing with plot twists and desperately short on writers willing to keep up.
Met with President Trump at the White House this week, where Trump announced he's sending $40 billion to Argentina. Because if history is any guide, a lot of Trump officials will end up fleeing to Argentina. The medical executive collapsed in the Oval Office on Thursday. And speaking of pharmaceuticals, whatever they've got Trump on, I want some. Because just look how chill he is during all of this. He's just standing there. He's literally...
The spotlight returned to Colin Jost, who carried the momentum with the quiet intensity of someone watching a fireworks display that accidentally set the neighbor's lawn on fire. Jost examined Trump's financial claims with the same bewilderment a mathematician might feel when handed a calculator that screams instead of calculating. With dry, surgical humor, he dissected Trump's attempts to rewrite his own timeline, pointing out that he treats history like a choose-your-own-adventure book where every path ends with the same conclusion: I won. Jost compared Trump's grand announcements to motivational speeches written by someone who has never followed a budget, describing them with a mix of awe and incredulity. He painted Trump unveiling new projects with the enthusiasm of a man showing off an untested jetpack. And when it came to self-praise, Jost joked it was like giving oneself a standing ovation for sneezing especially loudly, blending absurdity and precision in perfect comedic form.
Loudly.
Giving him ultimate power, the powers of a king or a monarch. And that's not what the United States is all about. And it's a terrifying prospect. And in fact, what has happened since he's taken office has been terrifying, I think, for the world and definitely for the United States of America. If you talk to any Americans, they're all in shock, or at least the ones that I know. I will have to say I don't really have many people in my life that support him. I don't really understand how people could support a convicted felon.
Comedy sharpened as Colin Jost tackled Trump's habit of pivoting topics mid-sentence. He compared it to watching a Penguin documentary where the narrator suddenly launches into a lecture on cryptocurrency. The abrupt shifts, the contradictory explanations, the mental detours, all combined into a dizzying, unpredictable spectacle. Jost tied it together with his signature understated precision, delivering quiet truths with a smirk sharp enough to cut steel. Then Rosie O'Donnell returned for one final surge, treating Trump's worldview like a carnival ride that probably hadn't passed inspection. She highlighted how every situation, no matter how simple, becomes a universe where Trump positions himself as the center of gravity. It wasn't about what he says, what he does, or even what he claims happened last Thursday. It was the way he bends reality around himself. In the end, Colin and Rosie, each in their own distinct comedic orbit, left Trump spinning helplessly in a galaxy of jokes, contradictions, and unforgettable chaos, proving that sometimes the most absurd reality makes for the sharpest humor.